Hi, this is Marcus Giuliano. I'm the chef and owner of a restaurant called Aroma Thyme Bistro in upstate New York, one of the Hudson Valley's first green certified restaurant. And today I want to talk a story about my career and how I worked at the Greenbrier in West Virginia, which is a famed American resort with a great culinary program, apprenticeship program, phenomenal European sous chefs there and staff, and really just, they've been doing it right for years. Herman Rusch was the long-time standing executive chef there. He came from Switzerland, I think back in the 60s. I think he came from Switzerland, and Herman Rusch was really on his game and really set up the Greenbrier today to what it is, its legacy, its legend of being great. Now the Greenbrier, CSX does not own the Greenbrier anymore. They've switched hands. So I'm not really sure what they're doing there now, but really for 50 solid years, I mean, they had the reputation of their food. So I was, how did I find out about the Greenbrier? Going to culinary school, one of my professors, Mr. Nadeau, who was the head of the Department of Culinary, pulled me aside one day, and Nadeau said to me, it was, Marcus, I was an apprenticeship graduate of the Greenbrier in 1969, and it's a phenomenal place, and I really like to see you go there. You have the potential to go there and really excel. And he goes, I've been able to send some people there in the past. It's a hard place to get into. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. I was like, wow. So I went home and looked it up. But back then we didn't have the internet. The internet was in its infancy, 1992. Then in 3 it was in its infancy. I mean, you could sort of get on Prodigy, I think, at the time, and like do certain things. But I went back and did some research on the Greenbrier, and I was like, wow. This resort's been there since 1870s. Amazing. The building's been there since like 1912. They built it 1918 or something. The main building there, long time historic property, but it's been a resort on there since like 1770. Something really impressive. The hot springs of White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, up in the mountains, past the Homestead Hotel, another famous American property. It's like, this is great. So I went back to Mr. Nadeau and I said, this is it. So we applied and applied and applied. And got a letter back and said denied. You know, thank you for applying, pull up the correct thing. Walter Scheib was a chef there at the time. He's now the chef at, or he went on later after that to be the chef at the White House for Clinton, I believe. He was Clinton's chef there. Was it Clinton's or the Bush? One of those, maybe the, I don't know who it was, but he was yeah, it would have been way back then. So he ended up going to the White House, but he wrote me a letter saying, you know, basically we're full and everything's planned out here, and thank you for applying and this and that. Good luck in your career. So, you know, I tried to apply again, no luck. So I decided to go to work at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs, which is a beautiful property just like the Greenbrier. They've also had some phenomenal chefs there. Ziggy Eisenberger was and still is the chef there. He was on the culinary Olympic team, actually with one of the chefs, Hartman Henke, from who was the chef of the Greenbrier back in the 80s for like 5 years. So I go to work at the Broadmoor. It was easier to get in. I go to work at the Broadmoor, start working there, and I go introduce myself to Steve Bartlin. He is the president of the Broadmoor. And I'm just an employee, so I go in, I introduce myself, make an appointment through a secretary, and sit down and say, hi, I just want to introduce myself. I'm a new employee here, great property. I used to go to school right behind here as a kid at Pauline Memorial. I'm happy to be on staff. So he starts talking to me and this and that, and we start building a relationship. And when I see him around the hotel, and even around Colorado Springs, he says, hello, Marcus, how are you? So I say to him one day, I said, you know, Mr. Bartlin, I'd love to go work at, start talking about my goals, I'd love to go work at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. He goes, really? I said, yes, I'd love to. He goes, I used to be the manager there, the general manager there. It's where I came from to come here. I said, really? He said, yes. He goes, let me call the food and beverage director there, Mr. Stoner, Rod Stoner, and introduce you and see what their plans are. As soon as that happened, I got a personal phone call from the executive chef, now Robert Wong, and says, I understand you're interested in coming to work here. We'd love to have you here. They talk very highly of you at the Broadmoor. I said, yes, I'd love to. Well, we need, our season starts in April. We need the people to come in as early as, you know, March 1st, March 15th. I said, perfect. And this was like back like in now August, July of the previous year. I said, perfect. I'll be there. I can make it. I can easily make that. And so that's what happened, how I got actually accepted into the Broadmoor, into the Greenbrier. And really, the story of that is I tell this story all the time too when I talk to culinary students, and I talk to students. I do career day every day at the Ellenville School, and the first thing I talk to students about is ethics and morals, and that's how you get jobs. I explain ethics and morals as the impression that you leave behind at a job. And will they rehire you? Will they recommend you for another job? And how do you work the network? And how do you get jobs? If you have good ethics and morals, your boss respects you and the industry respects you, that's how you get jobs. And I tell the story how I applied and got denied. And one quick phone call like that, it's who you know, and because of Mr. Bartlin respected me. I was young back then. I was 21 when I walked into Mr. Bartlin's office, or 20, I think. I was 19 or 20 years old. I wasn't even 21 because when I worked at the Greenbrier, I just turned 21. I wasn't even 21 yet when I walked into the Greenbrier. So I was 20 years old when I walked into Mr. Bartlin's office. And most 20-year-olds are some punks, there's a lot of knowledgeable 21-year-olds respectable, but you think of most 20-year-olds out there, in college and everything. So I obviously left a good impression with Mr. Bartlin, and Craig Reed from there was very beneficial in having me go over there, because Craig Reed was also in the loop. Once you get into a certain level, like all the hospital directors know each other because they're in that loop. All the cafeteria school directors know each other because they're in that loop. All the five-star hotel managers and chefs know each other because they're in that loop. So I was in that loop, and that was a great loop to be in, and good ethics and good morals got me really far in there, and I know that I could go back and work at any of those properties that I've worked at because I did leave a good impression. So if you are a student listening to this, please take that with some advice, ethics and morals. And that's really how I built my career, and was able to get into the Greenbrier in West Virginia. Beautiful resort. I can't wait to go back there and visit. It's, like I said, still operating, but under different owners. And a good friend of mine, Peter Timmons, was a chef there for years afterwards. And I've spoken to him quite often. And he was very instrumental once I had gotten there in molding me, Peter Timmons and Peter Schindler, into a phenomenal conscious cook on how to season things and cook things properly and take the simple things and just make them taste great. So that's my story on the Greenbrier Resort, Greenbrier Hotel in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Thanks for watching. I'm Marcus G, or I'm on marcusg.tv. That is my website, and I'm Marcus Giuliano. And thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos like this, informational, fun, informative stories from me, my career, my restaurant, and from the health world. Thank you very much.